Hello, my icebergs. Thank you for clicking on the thumbnail and welcome to the Iceberg Show with Saurabh Puranik, a place to find your inspiration. Please wait, I want to save your time. So check the description box and see the interesting questions I ask in this interview. You can watch those questions that solve your problem, or you can watch those questions that will give you a different perspective in life. So, guys, spend some time to save your time. Let's grow together. Our today's guest is Sushma Rajagopalan ma'am, a global leader, a venture capitalist, a mentor, and the former CEO of ITC Infotech, a fully owned subsidiary of ITC Limited. She has a track record of growing and transforming companies. She is known to have a strong strategic orientation and entrepreneurial mindset. She has held C-level roles in many companies like iGet, Zensa Technologies, Liquid Hub, L&T Infotech, and started her career with CMC and Citibank in India. In this episode, she talked about her iceberg story, leadership, required mindsets for an entrepreneur, and challenges of a CEO. So, enjoy this episode and comment your learnings. Let's grow together. Hello, Sushma ma'am. Thank you for accepting my invite, and I welcome you on the Iceberg Show with Saurabh Puranik.
Very nice to be here, Saurabh, and I'm delighted to contribute to your vision of creating the Iceberg Show as a source of inspiration for budding entrepreneurs and budding leaders, and I'm delighted to contribute to that.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So let's jump onto my first section, that is, what is your iceberg story? And ma'am, everybody want to become a CEO in their life, and everyone has this aspiration, but nobody knows, or very few knows, that what kind of efforts we need to take to achieve that position. So, and you are a seasoned CEO. So my question is, how you made yourself capable of becoming a CEO, and on what things you worked on?
So very interesting question. So when I got into the field of management, and this was in the mid-80s, I actually got into human resources, and this was with a company called CMC, which later got bought by TCS, and CMC was a spin-off of IBM. At that time, if anybody had asked me what I wanted to become, I knew within about a year of my working that I really wanted to be at the helm of a company. I wanted to be a leader. So the fact that I wanted to be that CEO got, into my head probably within the first year of my work experience. And then I started thinking, I said, how many people are CEOs of companies who with an HR background? I mean, you see CFOs who become CEOs, you see people from sales and marketing becoming CEOs. And I said, how can a person with an HR background become a CEO? And then that was sort of my, aha moment where I said, maybe I need to gather varied experiences. And I said, can I get into sales and marketing? Can I become a chief strategy officer, right? And I chose those paths, which are usually not done. When you don't see people who are in HR just give that up and jump into sales and marketing, okay? I got the opportunity, and I got the opportunity when I left India and came to the United States in a 1992-ish time frame. And I got an opportunity to just get into sales and marketing, and I took it, okay? And the confidence builder in me was my experience in Citibank. After CMC, I joined Citi. And, Citi in those days it was of course, unfortunate they're pulling out of India at the moment, but in those days it was a very powerful brand. And pretty much you worked with, people who were extraordinarily bright. and I got an opportunity to work with people like Jerry Rao and Aditya Puri and, Tyagarajan, Sajeev Thomas, people who, who were sort of pioneers and later on went on in life to prove, what they are. And at that time, I had an opportunity to I joined Citi in HR, but very quickly became the head of HR, and I was in the policy committee of Citibank. And I would say that Citi was the experience that told me that I can be anything I want to be, and I can actually learn. And when I moved from Citi into the United States and joined a company called Mastech, which became iGate, my first job out there was actually in the federal government division, and I was building a business. I was actually building a business with the White House, the federal government. So it was that shift from HR to sales and marketing. I did other HR and recruiting roles along the way, but that was sort of a stage from which I was able to pivot. And then I took on a strategy and M&A role with many firms. And I had an entrepreneurial stint, and this was in 2000, where I was actually a CEO of a startup from Carnegie Mellon. And it was a technology company to teach people how to speak English. And I pivoted from startups and then set up my own company to help a lot of the IT services firms, and they were just beginning on their expansion and growth plan. Got into strategy, and from strategy became CEO. Sorry to give you a long-winded answer there, but that was sort of my career path. Some of the things were, some of these things you don't choreograph. Some of these things happened, but I had two things that was very clear. I wanted to become a CEO. Okay, I was not afraid to take chances. I was not afraid to shift my discipline or function. So I would say these were the two things: clarity and the fearlessness to explore new things.
Okay. But ma'am, when you become a CEO, you must have at least you have some sort of knowledge of different industries or different functions of that business. So during the course of your journey, what things you learn, unlearn, and relearn to grow fast?
See, extremely good question. I am a first principles person. Okay. So anytime you go into a business, ultimately you need to know how the business makes money. What are the drivers of that business? What are the drivers in the market? What drives demand? What drives the cost? Okay. And what makes you profitable? So any business, fundamentally, if you were to analyze it, in this particular equation, profit is equal to, profit is nothing but, the revenues that you make less the costs. How are you making the revenue? What are the multiple ways in which you are making the revenue? What are the associated costs with each one of these? If you were to just use this very simple paradigm, which later on in life, I do that today as a venture capitalist and mentoring companies, this first principles of breaking down a company into its simplest basic form helps you understand what ticks with that particular industry, whether it is a health tech company, whether it's a fintech company, whether it's an HR tech company. By and large, I am focusing on technology companies. I focus on technology, SaaS, and service companies. Okay, so that's sort of become my focus, because today we are in a very competitive world, and understanding the nuances of how a particular industry thrives is very critical. So I use two things. First, principles. Second thing is surrounding yourself with a lot of experts, okay? And admitting that you may know a lot of things and you still do not know a lot of things. So this has helped me a lot, surrounding myself with people, okay? And the third thing is in terms of, what you learned, unlearned, de-learned. I must tell you this, I have been in the field of technology for well over 30 years. I did learn assembler, I did learn basic. I even taught some of these things, but I knew that I would never be a programmer. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. So I very quickly de-learned it, okay? My love for M&A, inorganic growth, venture capitalism, these were in my head right from year 2000. Sometimes what happens is you learn and then you have to park things, okay? And then, when life takes you to a particular stage, you relearn some of them. And yeah, I relearned. In fact, 2 months ago, I went and enrolled for a program at Wharton on private equity. People were asking me why I wanted to do that. I think it's a great prescription that I would give to people. Go back to the academic setting as much as you can, because you learn from the professors, you learn from your colleagues. So my mantra is learn and relearn, okay? I don't emphasize too much of the de-learn part of it. Learn and relearn is sort of my mantra.
Okay. But that means that when you go in particular that business, you must understand the core of that business. And at the same time, you must be humble enough to grasp certain knowledge from other persons. So
Absolutely.
Is that true?
Absolutely. See, you've got to see, especially in today's world where technology is galloping, all right? And I'm sure someone like you, Saurabh, okay, will probably understand things about security way better than I would, right? But that doesn't mean I cannot run a security company, or I cannot choose which security company that I would invest in if I wanted to, right? Because I always can have people like you on tap, but that's not going to substitute my judgment. That's not going to substitute my intuition, but I can always pack it with knowledge from other people, but I need to know to ask the right questions. Okay. So one of the key trainings of becoming a leader and a CEO is to ask the right questions.
Okay. So my next question is that as you talk about CEO, and you also was the CEO of ITC Infotech, and there is so much glamour about that particular CEO part in the industry, and everybody wants to become a CEO, but don't know what are the struggles of becoming a CEO. So can you please highlight those parts?
Absolutely, I will. Being a CEO is anything but glamorous. Once you get into the job, yes, the media portrays, there is a lot of limelight on you. But for me, those were not the attraction. For me, the biggest attraction was to be able to tangibly impact the lives of multiple people around me, to tangibly create value, and to be that person who is steering an organization directionally, right? These are very, very powerful things. But let me tell you, the struggles are enormous, okay? There's constant demand on your time. If you're a CEO, you are 24/7 a CEO. You can't say, well, I'm checking out for the next 5 days, okay? Yes, even when you're on vacation, you're still available. So in my 4.5, 5 years as a CEO, I must have taken probably maybe in all a month and a half of time off in 5 years, okay? But even in that time, you are still sort of, you need to be accessible. So I think that constant demand on your time is something that people should be aware of. And then as a leader, you think that you are answerable to no one. In fact, you're answerable to many people. I would say you have too many bosses, okay? You're answerable to the employees, you're answerable to the industry, you are answerable to your customer, you're answerable to the board. And if you're in a publicly traded company, and I was not, you're answerable to the shareholders. So, the key thing as a CEO is if you have the clarity, and I will keep coming back to clarity, because you need that clarity of thinking to be, yes, you need to be able to say, if you don't know something, expose your vulnerability. That's okay. People will respect you for that over a period of time. But it's this constant, juggling of time and answerability to many people. Those would be, I would say, two of the biggest struggles. And third is, you need to have answers while others may have none. Okay, so you need to sort of be able to, you're almost like a fortune, you need to be thinking ahead of other people. That stimulated me. Okay, so you're thinking of how do you scale your company, you're thinking about what is coming down in the future, how are you increasing the profitability, what kind of processes are you going to improve. In fact, these were my 4 pillars by which I would sort of wake up every morning and sort of say, okay, what am I going to do new in order to stay ahead of the curve? What do I do in order to scale the company to the next level? Are my processes okay? And these are not one-time things, Saurabh. These things are at any stage. When you're running $100 million company, it's the same thing. When you're running $1 billion company, the same questions. The answers may differ, but the questions are still the same.
Okay. But ma'am, during this, your journey, have you lost your self-confidence because of this constant demand? And how you come back stronger?
Saurabh, yes, there will be many moments where you question yourself. You may lose a client, okay? And you thought you had done everything right. You can have a customer who's been a customer of yours for 8 years, okay? And they decided to pull out and set up their own captive. This happened to me. And this happened to me a month before I became a CEO.
Oh.
And you sort of say, is it me? You go through and then very quickly you have to say, okay, what do I do to redeem the situation? Because you cannot be seen to falter, right? And you just have to come back and say, this is part of business. That yes, you will win some, you will lose some. Yes, you will have some today and they will leave you tomorrow. Okay. You will, and I will tell you this, there is disappointment, there is anger, there is frustration. But then the key is to pull yourself back as quickly as possible. I wouldn't say that you shouldn't have these emotions. We're all human beings. You will have all these emotions. You just need to pull yourself out of it and say, well, how can I think ahead? How can I learn from this? What is the biggest thing that I can learn from this? So I used to do something called after action learning, which was very, very helpful. So that everybody understood and everybody had a chance to kind of reflect on what we could have done different collectively. So there are techniques that I would sort of, bring about, and most leaders do these things. The key is to sort of learn from what happened. And ideally, if you don't repeat the same mistake more than once, I think you're good. We will all make mistakes, but as long as you don't repeat the same mistake, okay, then you are learning. So I would only say that for me, the self-confidence was from learning and saying, we just have to pick ourselves, because you're suddenly answerable to 8,000 people who are in the organization. You have to look at their lives and you have to say, well, How do I make my shareholders, okay, not lose confidence in me? So these things will sort of, make your disappointment and your emotional sort of setback, okay, get pushed to the background.
So, ma'am, basically, when you are leading up some leadership position, so you have to deal with the constant self-doubt and self-questioning. So during this period, what things you like help you to keep you balance in that particular feelings, because you regularly deal with negative emotions, because a lot of people expect like magic from you basically. So what things help you to keep a balance in your life, because
Right.
unless and until you are not balanced, so you cannot you cannot show your outcome.
See, everything that goes up comes down, and everything that comes down goes up. I mean, this is one of the biggest learnings that I had in Citibank and in my understanding of financial markets. That nothing remains constant in life. Okay, so it's easier. It sounds very nice when I say it, but you need to internalize it. So an element of philosophy is needed to be able to say, well, this too shall pass, okay? But you cannot just sit on your backside and say, this too shall pass. You need to do everything to drive the company. And you've got to sort of you have to pivot from self-doubt to self-worth, okay? The key for me is self-worth. How do you gain self-worth? I mean, you look at varied experiences, and I'm very happy. I mean, there are some people who stick with one company for 30 years and become CEO. I'm not that. I consciously sort of chased after multiple different kinds of experiences. And a lot of people would tell me, Sushma, you're doing the wrong thing. You should stick to one thing and one thing alone. And I said, no, I'm going to seek experiences. And that, I think, was my single biggest learning, that I could be on my own, or I can run a large company. And this is something that I think I'm unique in. Not too many people have the ability to be an individual contributor, at the same time have the ability to lead a very large company. It doesn't bother me. I don't need thousands of people to give me the self-worth. So I'm as happy to be an advisor on the board, a single contributor, as I am to leading a much larger organization. And I was fortunate that I got these varied experiences very, very early in my life. And the two other things I would tell you, I mean, I think family support is something that's very helpful. My parents, come from a very humble family where, education is premium. All right. So that was the biggest wealth. And I'm sure that's the same case with you, Saurabh, right? My parents instilled in me the confidence that I could be anything I wanted to be. And for a woman at the time when I grew up, that was a very, very big thing. And a lot of times what happens is this changes when a person gets married. But in my case, my husband is one of my biggest supporters. He by support, I don't mean agreeing to everything, but being that objective voice in my life. Okay. So I've been very lucky. And then I have a couple of mentors and I have only two mentors in my entire career. But they have been, fabulous in sort of, making me see things, making me realize, and most importantly, to retain my self-worth.
That's great, ma'am. And that is that's why the mentor is important in our life. I too feel the same. So my next question is that from your journey and learnings, you came up with the 4 C's of leadership, and you literally emphasize on clarity. So that is one of the 4 C's of leadership. And second is courage, then charisma, and then character. But why you think that these are important for everyone, and how these traits are linked with each other?
So, this is when I got the tenets of the 4Cs. This was actually in an interview with a very large Indian conglomerate that I eventually went on to become the chief strategy officer. And the chairman of the company asked me, what makes a leader? I thought of, my father was a chemist, okay? And early on in life, he had taught me one thing. He had taught me about diamonds, and diamonds are measured in terms of 4Cs, okay? There is, I think, cut, carat, clarity, and color, okay? And I said, well, what could be the 4 dimensions of a leader, all right? And I started with clarity, because for everything you need to have clear thinking. But that clear thinking has to lead to courage of conviction and the courage to actually act. A lot of people have clarity, but they don't necessarily end up translating that into action. Once you act, you still need to carry people with you. You need to have the ability to communicate why you did what you did. Without that followership, okay, your decision or your whatever you're launching will not gather momentum. And then finally, you need to have the character. Character is just being true to yourself. Character is following a certain set of guidelines and principles, right? You may find each one of these tenets in all of us, but it's the combination of the 4, because they feed off of each other. It's actually a loop, right? That they feed off of each other is what makes, a leader a true leader. And I'm also somebody who comes up with a lot of these 4Cs and 4Es because it's also easy to remember, okay? So I'm sure this concept can be encapsulated in 20 lines by somebody, but I felt that, when I say 4Cs, it sort of sticks in people's head.
That's true, ma'am. So, ma'am, next move on to the next question is that what habits shaped your career? Because you always have that desire to become a leader in your life. So, but ultimately you need that habit to justify that particular desire, and then only you can deliver that. You can achieve that position. So, what habits shaped your career?
Sure. I would say the ability to network, okay? And I do this even now, even today, I'm not hesitant to reach out to somebody, okay? And I'm not from the standpoint of wanting something from them, but just from purely being able to network, exchanging thoughts. So I would put that as one of the habits that I have inculcated, in terms of the comfort with which I can network with people, right? The second is paying it forward, all right? To sort of be thinking about how can I contribute to something down the line, right? I talked about trying new things and not being afraid to take a chance, not being afraid to say I do not know, right? I would say that these would be some of the key things, in my opinion, that shape who I am, basically.
Okay. Ma'am, from a normal people point of view, you have achieved all the things in your life. So, and a normal person can call you a successful person. So, but how you measure your success and how one should measure a success in their life?
Success is not a comparison, first of all, okay? And this is very easy for me to say it, but it's very difficult for anybody to accept it, Okay, because you're constantly worrying, why am I not like so and so? Yes, I have achieved moderate success. Okay, there are people who have achieved mega success. I don't quantify success. Okay, for me, if you have joy, there is success. If I help you put together a very compelling episode and makes you happy and it makes 20 other people happy, I think that's success. For me, living multiple experiences is definitely success. Okay? For me to leave a mark, to bring a joy in someone else's life, if I can make a difference to one person at a time, I'm happy. Yes, I'd be happier, you can say, if I can make 1,000 people happy at the same time. But it's not a quantitative game, okay? If I can bring a smile, if I can make a difference to one person's life, and I have in my entire career shaped many people's careers, it gives me paramount joy to help other people achieve their goals. This is what success is for me.
Okay. So that means living a content life, it's like success for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Ma'am, have you...
Making a difference. You have to make a difference. But how you make that difference? I mean, do you make that difference one person at a time? Do you make a difference en masse? I don't know. But at the moment, I'm happy if I can make a difference to one person at a time.
Mm-hmm. So also living the moment is also an important point of becoming a successful.
Yes, living the moment. Being in the moment, living the moment. You said it. Absolutely.
Okay. My next question is that have you come across any critical situation where you have to challenge your belief or you have to take a strong action in your life? So how you take those critical decisions in your life? What was the drive or what was the steps one should take to take a tough decisions in their life?
So I'm someone who goes through the methodical pros and cons, the choices you have and the choices you make. You evaluate your choices. But ultimately, I lead from the gut, okay? As far as personal decisions are concerned, okay? If I'm very different as a leader, as a CEO, how I make a decision. But your question is, how do I make a decision for myself?
Yes.
There, I just go with a lot of times my gut and what I want. So for instance, moving from one position to another, I knew that if I left this company, I would be leaving a lot of money behind. But I still did it because I wanted that experience. I wanted that experience of being a global CEO of a company. And I said, you know what, I will take a chance. And knowing that I will always land on, firmly with my feet on the ground. And if something goes wrong, I have the resilience to be able to, get back and start running again, right? So I think I have a fair amount of an entrepreneurial quotient in me. Sometimes I say an entrepreneurial quotient, which gives me the confidence that, I can try new things. I might fail at something, but even failing gives me a learning and I would do it. So it's with that confidence that, after my corporate CEO life, I mean, I can't say after, who knows what's in store tomorrow. But I said, hey, you know what? I will get into the field of venture capital and I will do everything I can to leverage my operating and execution experiences into my new life. I'm having to relearn a lot of new concepts, but that's life. that's putting life into your life.
Okay. So So with this, we come to the end of this episode, and you also become a co-passenger of the Iceberg Show. And I'm hoping that you will continue your journey with us, and also you have shared so much of wisdom with us and step-by-step approach one should follow in order to achieve their dreams. Because everybody has their dreams, but nobody has that right mindset to achieve those. So thank you so much for highlighting those aspects. So I'm really grateful for that.
No, delighted, Saurabh, because what I believe in your mission, that you are creating resources for budding entrepreneurs, budding leaders, people who can go to your site and access, our experiences, or even access people, right? Because I think it's very important, and I do a lot of mentorship and being available to budding entrepreneurs and budding leaders. And I'm delighted to be part of your show and share my experiences.
Thank you so much, ma'am.